Good evening. I'd like to call the council meeting for September 18th, 2017 to order. Please stand for invocation. Is Bobby here? Councilperson Ellis, will you do us the honors?
Gladly. Let us pray. Gracious God, we come tonight asking that you be here with us. We ask that your hand of mercy and hand of love be upon the many countries that have suffered at their faith with the hurricanes that have gone through. We ask your arm of protection to guide the hurricanes that's coming again away from them. Lord, there's so much suffering that's going on. We ask for your help. And Lord, we ask that you be with the people of Jeffersonville. We ask that you give them wisdom and strength and allow them to love you and know you more. And Lord, we ask that you be present with this council. Grant us wisdom, grant us knowledge, grant us the understanding to do your will and not our will. And Lord, let us be civil in the things that we do. Let us keep our minds stayed on you first and then on the business that we have to do. We ask these blessings in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilperson Ellis, for your invocation. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilperson White.
Present.
Councilperson Zastopny.
Present.
Councilperson Yon. Present. Councilperson Maples.
Here.
Councilperson Hawkins.
Here.
Council President Gill.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Ellis.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record reflect all 9 members are present.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion to approve the minutes for regular proceedings of September 5th, 2017.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. I got a motion by Callie, second by Matt Owen to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion
We
carries.
said that at the same time too, Matt.
Can I have the approval of the agenda with the removal of number 13 under new business, please?
So moved.
Second?
Got a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Claims to be approved. General first, please, Heather.
We have claims tonight for $2,159,290.74.
And all claims were in order.
Yes.
Do I have any questions for Heather on the claims? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the general claims for $2,159,290.74.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to approve the claims of $2,159,290.74. Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Parks claims.
We have parks claims for $132,217.47.
All claims in order?
Yes.
The board got those claims ahead of time also.
I had one question.
Okay.
On page 2, top 1, it looks like we're contracting to maintain Water Park. Is that a new thing?
No.
Is that accurate? What type of maintenance was done, do you know?
It's just the general maintenance that outside of we had
I think,
mowing and trimming and bushes, and we've had that in place for
Okay.
I read that contract and he's correct.
I apologize. What claim was that? What
Oh,
page?
that was page
Number
2,
Top of page 2.
very top 1.
Got it.
Any further questions, Mr. Samuel?
No.
Sorry, Councilperson Samuel. Can I have a motion to approve them?
so moved.
Second?
Got a motion and a second approval of parks claims of $132,217.47. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Report of the clerk.
None at this time?
Okay. Then we will move right on to unfinished business, which is Vicki, an ordinance amending 2017 OR 40, the salary ordinance. This was passed on the first and second reading. Anything changed?
No, again, what this is just names, just to clean up and then names.
Housekeeping.
I'll make a motion to approve 2017 OR 60 on the third and final reading.
Got a motion and second to pass 2017 OR 60 on third and final. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Heather, 2017 OR 63, which is an ordinance transferring certain funds within the same department. This did pass on the first reading. And do we have an explanation for these?
Yes, Mr. Northam's here. Also, I just wanted a clarification on there. There's a couple of duplicates.
Okay.
You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The sixth one down where it says Jack Improvements for $20,000
Okay.
and the ice rink rental for $13,000, but we're gonna, if we can take off the Jack Improvement for the $20,000 that's already on, it's the third one also. But we are gonna need that second one, because at the moment, pool staff number is needing around $36,000 plus the rest of,
But you just have 1 week of pool employees cleaning up the pool.
right.
So which one are
So-
we eliminating?
The 20,000,
Line 5?
yes.
Okay.
Line
Line
6.
Line 6.
6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes, correct, I'm sorry.
Okay.
This 20,000 here.
Oh, mine's different. This one's different for some reason.
Well, no.
Yes.
So I think,
I don't have that one.
Yeah, that one's in, yeah, that one's in.
Director Northam, I think everybody was copied on the email that I sent out earlier this afternoon, kind of expressing the council's reluctance for these transfers, because we've already done some transferring previously for pool staff. So as I said in the email, we've mentioned that we have a new aquatics director starting, or has started, but the council just kind of wanted more background on why we're
First of
continuing
all,
to...
if I could say this, the salaries for the pool staff, including overtime from last year, was $154,780. The same pool staff and overtime for this year was $141,915. So we did save about $1,400,000 from last year to this year. So that being said, I just want to go over a couple things. First of all, lifeguards, we cannot cut back on lifeguards. If we open the pool, we have to have the same amount of lifeguards there. We have 11 stations, and if we take a couple stations out, it means we have to shut down part of the pool. Maybe it's the diving board area or the slide area or the kids feature. So we cannot cut back on pool. Now, we did have a few days of rainouts this year, which we had the same thing last year. So that was the first thing. Admissions staff, we schedule for the worst case scenario. We schedule for having the most people at the pool, and then if it rains or it's cloudy or nobody shows up, then we start sending people home, which we did this year. And then the last thing is our concessions. We had planned last year to contract out the concessions, to bring in someone who would run the concessions for us, hire the employees, order the product, prepare the product, and inventory the product. We had someone hired, and then it fell through. He backed out us at the last minute, and we didn't have time to create a new position and hire someone for that position. So we had to go back and hire employees for the concessions, purchase product for concessions. So we are over budget about $40,000, or maybe it's closer to 35. But anyway, we're all over budget, and we have money left in our improvements fund that we didn't spend, that we were wanting to transfer money over to cover that.
Paul?
Yep.
This is the third time we did a transfer or whatever addressing the pool staff. So my question was, why can't we get a handle on how many employees, you know what you're making, and the pool's closed, they've already got their last check. So if you needed money, why didn't it happen before the pool closed? Are we having people waiting to be paid, or are you just moving money now that was left over?
We're moving money that was left over in other funds that we didn't spend. Everybody has been paid to date. Nobody's been shorted money. But I just have to answer that by, we didn't estimate enough money to finish out the year. We went to you guys to transfer funds the first time thinking it would be enough, and it wasn't enough. So I'll take the blame that we didn't transfer enough money.
But we have accurate projections in next year's budget, in the 2018 budget.
If we contract out concessions, we should have enough money in the payroll to take care of all of our employees, pool employees. Hopefully that'll happen this year.
Is there somebody already, someone new in the pipeline to do that, or is that still getting put out to?
Not yet. We have to put it out to, not to bid, but we have to put it out in the newspaper to advertise, and we're planning on doing that next month.
So theoretically, if that falls through again, or you're not able to find someone, we'd be looking at another about $40,000.
Then I'll probably need to come back before now and ask for more money for that year. And it's just something we didn't think about doing.
Okay.
Anybody have any further questions for Paul?
So I think we have to have a motion to amend OR 63 to remove that $20,000.
That's correct.
So I would make a motion to amend 2017 OR 63, removing line 6, $20,000 from jack improvements to pool staff.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to amend 2017 OR 63 to reflect the changes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. I will now entertain a motion to...
And I would make a motion to approve 17 OR 63 on the second and third reading as amended.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second to pass the amended 2017 OR 63. Any further questions or discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Paul.
Just
Appreciate it.
Northern, while you're there, just a question. I know there was some concerns about maintenance needs at the pool last year, previous years. Is there going to be a need for major work to be done at all during the off-season this year? Or?
Yeah, we're looking for prices on the kids' play feature. We've got 2 prices, and I'm waiting on the third one. So when that happens, I'm going to come to you and tell you what our options are. We really have a couple options. We can take it out completely and have no kids' feature in the zero-depth area, or we can order a product that can replace that. And we have different levels, starting at, I'm just going to throw out numbers, $150,000 all the way up to $300,000, and that's what I'm going to bring to you. But we don't currently have in our budget to take care of that.
Is the pool, though, structurally okay? There's not a need for any
It is.
kind of...
Right,
concrete work?
it
Okay,
is.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, Heather, you're still up. That is ordinance 2017 OR 64, and this is the ordinance of additional appropriation. This is just basically moving that sidewalk money into that fund that we created, so nothing has changed, correct?
This is, yes, appropriating the cash that's already in the sidewalk construction fund, yes. Nothing's changed.
If nobody has any questions, then I'm going to go ahead and open up public hearing. Does anybody have a question for open? Okay. At this time, I'm going to open up public hearing. If anybody wants to speak for or against this additional appropriation of moving the sidewalk money into the fund of $90,886, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please. Seeing none, I'm going to officially close public hearing. So I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 2017 OR 64 on the second and third, I guess.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second to pass 2017 OR 64 in the second and third reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. So we have Mr. Merkley, a resolution finding substantial compliance with statement of benefits for tax abatements for 2017.
This is a duty of the City Council every year to review the tax abatements that are outstanding and compare those abatements to what was promised, what is being delivered. You have in front of you a report that lists all of the abatements that are outstanding in alphabetical order. That's a spreadsheet. It indicates the jobs that were promised, the actual jobs that have been produced so far through the abatement, and the salaries estimated, and the actual salaries that have been produced. And also you can see some of these abatements are still have some years on them for them to complete what they promised. So state law requires that the council review this information and if it finds it acceptable, to accept the report, and then we can forward it to the county auditor.
What would the resolution number be?
11.
Redevelopment already approved it.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Merkley on the,
We just accept it?
You're adopting a resolution that says that you accept them.
which is 2017 R11?
Make a motion to approve 2017 R11.
Second.
Got a motion, a second to pass 2017 R11. Any further discussion?
Question.
Okay.
Is this list published anywhere? Or do we make it public beyond being a public?
I don't know. In today's everything on the internet, I don't know if the auditor places it on the internet or if the DLGF does. I don't know.
Okay.
But again, the resolution, I want to just clarify, the resolution is to accept this and also to find that they are substantial compliance, which redevelopment has reviewed the numbers, and some are ahead, some are just below what they promised, but overall,
the reason I asked is because they're very strong.
Yes.
And some of these companies are corporate neighbors, if you will, are doing very well. Steel Dynamics is one that, $3 million over what they promised in, payroll. And there are several that are doing beyond what they've promised.
Still have several years left.
And have years on their abatements to go. So I just think that, I don't know if that's a product of many, I'm sure it's collectively a lot of different variables. It's good to see that those who are benefiting from the tax abatements that they get through us and through redevelopment are living up to what they've promised.
I don't think so. I have a question. So when
Yes.
it says estimated project completion date, that is when it begins? When then the abatement will begin?
no, that's when their actual, whatever, if it's an expansion or a new business they're being built, that's when they are to be completed.
If you look at
The abatement continues beyond whatever their project was.
If you look at the resolution numbers, the first number in the resolution number will tell you when we approved the abatement.
Okay. So for example,
Amatrol was approved in 2014 for a 5-year abatement.
so in 19 it'll roll off?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Also gives you an idea of, you're going to see at some point, the property tax revenue when these abatements roll off.
Right.
Not only the property tax revenue is going to roll off, but it'll be a substantial increase for the money for the general fund.
Councilperson, it will be, I do scan it in when I scan it in.
Okay, awesome.
Anybody have any further questions? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Merkley, you're still up. As we have an ordinance changing the zoning map designation of a certain tract of property located at 4075 Herb Lewis Road and fully described in Exhibit A from an R1 to a PD, which is a PUD.
This comes to the council upon a favorable recommendation to rezone a property from, that's currently R1, which would allow residential construction, but it would just be larger lots. The request is, and the recommendation is to make that a PUD, and I believe that Jeff Corbett, who's the applicant here, his company has several representatives here that is, I believe, are going to make a presentation to answer any questions that you may have.
Let's see, we have a presentation here, and how do I turn this on? Good evening. My name is Bill Fisher. I'm the Director of Development for Premier Homes. And I'm excited to come to you all tonight with what I think is just a wonderful community that we have had the opportunity to make a presentation on, called Ellingsworth Commons. I want to start by saying that with me tonight is Jeff Corbett of Premier Homes, David Blankenbaker, who's a local land planner and surveyor, Matt Gillow is also here, and I'm going to go through the full presentation tonight. We're going to try and abbreviate it as much as we can, and then afterwards we're all going to be available for comments from the members here. And I want to start out by saying that creating a community starts with a statement. It starts with what the community needs, and our overview here is to improve the community of Jeffersonville with the creation of a single-family residential homes and recreational park space. This is a community-backed development plan to improve the land usage for the benefit of Jeffersonville and Clark County. And we really did try to reach out to both public and private sector of the community of Jeffersonville and Clark County in trying to approach this plan with an open mind, and received a lot of positive input from a lot of people on both sides, public and private. And that evolution, and most good plans go that way. They start with an idea or a concept, which is fairly general, and then develop with the ideas of many people from the community and the public sector and private sector come together to put a plan together. This plan also had help just by where it is in the opportunity that is happening on 10th Street and in Jeffersonville. Certainly the need is there, and the opportunity to develop the land was there, and it all came together. So that part of this was really fairly exciting and interesting to have. And as an overview or an objective, the project will improve the quality of life for the area residents by increasing the tax base and providing economic growth through the encouragement of new businesses, amenities, and associated jobs. We feel very strongly that our plan that we've come upon and we've developed it satisfies all of these criteria. First, to give you a little bit of education as to where it is, if you look at Ellingsworth Commons, it's right here in the center area right here. It is south of 265. Certainly the bridge is over here off of our map. To the east is Port Road. To the south is Middle Road. Bissings Park is directly to the west. And it reaches actually all the way from Middle Road all the way through to 10th Street by way of Herb Lewis Road. Incidentally, I'm sure you all are aware, River Ridge is right up here, right up the street. The new Kroger, which is, I think, Jeffersonville Commons, is right directly across from where the new Herb Lewis is going to go. And then you have the new Baptist Hospital with all the commercial that's going in there, which is a tremendous benefit to the plan that we have. Ellingsworth, if you grew up in Jeffersonville, you know of this as the Ellingsworth Dairy Farm. It is 100 acres, and that's the southern part of this property, which roughly with my arrow there, all of that to the south, and the access road to Middle Road is there, and that's 100 acres. Right above that, of course, that's an estate now, and the heirs have put it on the market. It was on the market for a couple of years, and there were plans, well, our competition to this was industrial people who were trying to buy it, and we're really happy that we were able to come in with a plan that was residential. The 60 acres are currently owned by Derek and Patricia Vogt, and of course that's their relatives. I think it's Patricia's parents owned and operated that 60-acre farm for a number of years, and that's immediately to the north of the 100 acres. And then of course the key to it really for the access was the 8 acres, which is this small section right on Herb Lewis Road right here at the top, which gave us access to Herb Lewis Road and provided the complete continuity all the way through to Middle Road. Now David Blankenberger, he's a local surveyor and land planner, and he did a great job with the development of this plan. We had worked with Randall Arndt on a project. Floyd County hired Randall Arndt to come down and do a project called Knob Hill, which was owned by Indiana Landmarks. And we had a project right next door to them. And we liked what his plan was so much. And we liked the idea of rural by design, which is really conservation planning. We liked it so much that we decided to adapt our plan to be compatible with their plan. And we actually asked Randall to help us with the design of this property. He said, "No, I'm sorry, I'm 70, and I promised my wife I'd take at least 2 weeks vacation this year, so I can't add any more new projects." But David did a great job in adapting these concepts. Now, Randall has done rural by design, and basically what he's talking about is a conservation tool to develop ground where you leave a lot of open spaces. This is not a new concept. This concept in many different forms has been very popular for the past 30 years across the country. Examples of it locally, I think the best example would be Norton Commons, is that type of concept. It's been very successful, and it's hard to find a site that is really adaptable to it. But it's using the topography and the contours of the land to develop people places and parks and so forth that are integrated into the community, which gets people out walking around and using bike trails and having places to hike. Obviously, with Vissing Park being right next door, it was tremendous integration of this. So our objectives became to develop a community of single-family homes, including a diverse range of sizes, styles, and values. There'll be homes in this community that'll be 160,000. There'll be homes in this community that'll be 400,000 or 500,000. So it's not going to be just one cookie cutter after another. There'll be a lot of different styles that'll be, and a lot of different types of homes that should be available in this community. Currently, I think the most popular designs that we see and that we're selling in other communities are the craftsman style homes, which I'm going to show you some examples of later. But there'll be a wide, diverse portion of these homes, different size lots, different size homes, and different price ranges. We're going to integrate it by providing recreational activities and green space to include walking, biking trails, a dog park, lakes, frisbee golf course, and an expansion and connectability to Vissing Park. Our proposal includes a park, 3 different lakes, and our proposal is including an offer to the city to own these parks. We would be more than willing to donate that ground to them. We feel like in the end it's better suited to be public and open to everybody. Certainly while we're head of the association, we would make it open to everybody. But it would eventually be turned over to a homeowners association. We'd rather see it be a community type thing where it's open to everybody that came into Vissing Park. But it's up to the city to make that decision. We can't make that for them, but that offer is what we're proposing to tonight. If the city does not want it, which to us we can't imagine that, but if that's the case, then we still would develop the parks. We would still build it pretty closely to what this plan is. Of course, I explained about Randall Arndt employing the concepts and utilizing the natural resources and topography, which he's done a very good job with. And this is interesting. As we got into it, we realized that the city of Jeffersonville last year had a study done, the 2016 Department of Planning and Zoning, and we have to point to this. It kind of blew us away, but we realized that there's a lot of economic growth here happening. And this plan, which this is just a cut sheet right from the plan, the important part of this, through all these numbers, is the additional housing demand in Jeffersonville by 2022 is projected to be 4,700 units. And I went through the plan fairly thoroughly, and they just didn't say that's a direct number. They did a real good job of analyzing this and providing for commuter employees that are going to be out there. But regardless of what the number is, there's going to be a need for new housing. We're proposing 500 and something new homes, and that's a start. Certainly, it is illustrated here that there's a perceived need. Now, these are the entrances to the development. There's 2 main entrances and 3 side entrances. The first one we already discussed a little bit, and that's off of East 10th Street, which is by Herb Lewis Road. That comes in our main entrance. Eventually, will be developed all the way back to Middle Road. Now, it's going to take us a couple of years to get back there. Actually, we're going to enter into an agreement with the people that own this ground down here, we hope. And when they develop their ground, then we're going to wind up building that entrance. So it may happen sooner than we had originally planned. It won't be built in the first section, but it might be built pretty soon. The other secondary entrances are to Pebble Creek subdivision, 2 of them. One's to Stone Lily Drive and the other one's to Pebble Creek Drive. And then there's some residential up front here that is off of Herb Lewis Road. I think there's about 20 acres in here, and we've just provided a stub street, so eventually that could go all the way out to Herb Lewis Road. So the main entrance. On this slide, I just want to identify the main entrance. I've already done that, and it just shows how that is. I'm going to explain this in 3 different sections. First, the main entrance. Now, on 10th Street, right here, this is where Herb Lewis Road went, and this is where it's going. They're already building this intersection. They're already going to put that in, and that's to serve the New Baptist Hospital. But it straightens out the entrance and the congestion there and puts a light on the street, which is tremendous for this whole development. The road is going to eventually come back to us here, and we're going to start our main entrance to the development off of that road. And that's going to provide pedestrian walkways to be built along the road, and certainly in our subdivision, which will go all the way to Norton Common, to Jeffersonville Commons on the north side, and to the Baptist Hills Hospital development, which is proposed to be built on the south side of 10th Street. This is the overall development, and the lots are laid out, and I'm going to take it section by section here to kind of explain it. This is a blow-up of that one section, and you can see as you come in, there's a boulevard. There's a boulevard arrangement. It's very green, very lush. We have 3 cul-de-sacs which come off of that, but it's a very green space coming in. You're going to have lots of trees on either side of the road. You got a few pocket parks here, which are along the ways. The main lake for the first section up front backs up. This actually backs up to Vissing Park. There'll be trails to be connected into it. There'll be a pathway built around the lake. The clubhouse and pool, which will be private, is up here, but we're proposing that this all be public. This double boulevard gives way to what we call a linear park, and Matt Gillow is with us also tonight, and he was kind of instrumental in coming up with this concept of a 50-foot green space with a 10-foot bikeway and walkway that goes down in front of all these homes and goes through the development. The second piece of this, and this is enlarged a little bit, has a couple of pocket parks. You can see these pocket parks down here, and this pocket, just to give you some idea of the size of this pocket park here is a little bit over an acre, and there'll be homes all the way around it. It'll have, here again, walking and biking trails, green space. So the boulevard gives way to this linear park. And Matt has compared that to the Cherokee Road Eastern Parkway Boulevard in Louisville. If you come down through that, that's considered a linear park. So, eventually, of course, there's a lot of trees we're going to put in that'll have to mature, but eventually that's the type of feel you're going for. And there's a lot of different varying lot styles. In the Area 3, which includes the main park in the back and the linear park going through, it'll take a couple of minutes here to kind of explain that. In the new park in back, there'll be 2 large lakes. There'll be a Frisbee golf course, and that's up there on the right-hand side of this drawing. That in there would be a Frisbee golf course, and then a dog park has been projected down there. There's some old silos in here that they're going to leave the silos and kind of reconfigure that and do something interesting with it. They've had a number of proposals, but they haven't really set upon exact uses, but it'll be a nice little historical thing to leave there in place. The linear park switches over as you move down the street here and goes from one side to the other. Now you notice all of these homes in this area here and in this area here all have alleyways behind them, and these are one-way alleyways. And that's so that you don't have a lot of traffic and stuff on that front main road. So you'll be able to drive down through there, and you'll have the park, which will vary twice on both sides of the road. All the houses will be fairly narrow at that point. They will all have rear access and rear garages and yards.
Those detached garages?
It'll be both. It'll be both. So middle road entrance obviously is down here at the end. And this is a combined road that we're going to enter into an agreement with the developers of this. Our access is the 70-foot access, which is here all the way to Middle Road. Just in itself, that access, parking ability for access to the park probably will wind up being used somewhat for that. And that'll be a tremendous asset for, you can park a lot of cars in 70 feet. And I think that's almost, about 800 feet? Do you know how far it is? It's about 800 feet to the road. So we'll have plenty of parking. They also will have parking on the street, on this boulevard, in various opposite the park side. And I've got I think the next slide shows a cutaway of what that cross section, where that blue arrow goes to. This is a cross section. And to your point, your question there, talking about detached garage. These show detached garages, but it could be an attached garage just the same. But you have your alleyway, your garage, your yard, your house. On this side of the street, you're going to have the setback from the street. You'll have a sidewalk. You'll have parking. Then you'll have two-lane highway or road, boulevard. Then you'll have a larger area, a 10-foot walkway, and a somewhere around 50-foot setback plus 15 feet to the front of the house. And then it repeats itself going back over to the alleyway. And of course, there'll be houses on either side that back up to that alleyway also. This is a larger blow-up of that typical section, showing how it's going to work, how it's going to go together. Also, off of the when you get back to the back, off of the driveways, there'll be enough room to pull a car in. So there'll probably be 20 feet between where the garage is and the house is, so that in the alley there'll be plenty of room not only to park your garage in your garage, but to pull up and park directly behind it. Okay, parks and landscape design. This is just some of the facts about it. There's 37 acres of new parks. There's 45 total acres in the community. Certainly the community is responsible for all the small little end pieces, all the pocket parks, all the places that aren't truly public. What we were proposing was that this area here, directly from Vissing Park down there, through there, and this park over here would be, part of the public park, plus this lake here. Now, let me also say that the maintenance of these lakes, until we are done with the development, really, I think there is an ordinance or some sort of requirement by the planning department for us to maintain it. So these would be built by us, the lakes would be built by us, would be maintained by us. David can give you the exact details of what the requirements are, but throughout most of the development, we're going to be right there with it and make sure that it's maintained and maintained properly until all the development's done, and then they'll be fairly stabilized on their own. But the points I wanted to make here, I'm wandering a little bit here. 3 miles of biking and walking trails. So if you start in Visiting Park and you go all the way around the lakes and come back, it's over 3 miles. A new park, fishing lakes, a frisbee golf, dog park. We think things that people can enjoy and a good extension of the park it would serve. And over 2,000 trees. Every one of those little humps, all those little dots there are trees. So the developer is planning on planting over 2,000 trees for the development. So 26%, I think that's what it says there. Yeah, 26% is the equivalency of the total ground in ratio to the amount of green space in the development. And now we're getting down to the homes. These are just some examples of the homes. This is a traditional Craftsman. It's a 2-story. It could be a 4-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath home, 2-car garage in the rear. Would have the home and access from the alley. It can be built on a basement. And Jeff does an interesting thing with his homes. When he puts them on a basement, he puts in daylight windows, which has a window well outside. It gives you full access or egress from the basement, which is nice. But it also adds a lot of natural light to the house and makes the basement very functional. He also does a lot of trusses, floor trusses. He does all of his homes with floor trusses. And that allows them to run the ductwork and the wiring and all the utilities through the trusses so that you have a full 8-foot ceiling in your basement. So you go down there and you have these natural windows and the natural light, the natural basement. It really works well. One of the problems with modern construction is the cost per square foot is getting so high that you have to be very efficient with your floor plans, and that's what Jeff has really done, provided a lot of house and a lot of functionality to it. The second home is an example of a smaller home. It's a Craftsman cottage. It's a 1.5-story cottage. It could have 4 bedrooms with a master on the first floor, a 2-car garage again, and can be built on the basement, between 1,400 and 1,800 square feet for a house like this. This third one is a Craftsman Ranch. This has been a very popular plan for us. This is the model at the Plains of Malign. The waters of Malign. And it's a 4-bedroom, 3 full-bath home. First floor master suite. It has a 2-car garage with a front-end entrance. All of the homes in the development will not be off an alleyway, so some of those will have front entry garages. Once again, you can utilize the basement in this home, and many people do, and that's 1,500 to 1,750 square feet. That's just on the first floor. That's just above grade. When I say square footage, it's just the stuff above grade. It doesn't include a basement. This is an example of a home that we've built, and it's an estate ranch. This one's about 3,000 square feet. This would be an example of a $400,000 or $500,000 home, which we expect, we will have those types of homes that we will build in there. This is a Craftsman cottage. It's just a 1-story home. It's very, very small, but it's very, very functional. And it would be between 1,200 and 1,400 square feet. This is an alternative to a patio home. It has its own lot, though, and it has a 2-car garage. You'll find these more and more popular. And this is another home that we built in the waters of Malign. It's just a different design. It's been very popular. It's a Craftsman Ranch. and it is, again, 1,549 square feet. All right, to wrap it up, this first house here, this picture, I had the opportunity to go out to Denver this summer, and while I was there, I went to a development called Stapleton. It used to be the airport. If you flew into Denver years ago like I did, you would know Stapleton as being the airport. Well, they closed the airport down and turned it into a residential development, and been very successful. And this shows all of the features that we're planning are alive and well in this and many other communities. You see here in the front of this home, you have a 15-foot to the front. You have, small lots, access from the alley. I mean, this house here is only about 30 feet wide. But it was a beautiful home and a beautiful community, and we certainly feel like our community will rival it in every way. The benefits include a diverse housing plan and pricing, a natural park setting, 26% in green space, trails, parks, and lakes. We feel like this community will attract new businesses, jobs, and amenities. It will have an increased tax base, and by the increased tax base, not only the number of homes and the value of the homes that we're creating, but it's a common rule in development. It's very well known that house rooftops generate needs for goods and services, and commercial, does really well. That's where they want to go. If you're talking to a developer, he wants to know, is there potential for commercial, or is there commercial around? Are there places my people can go shop? Where's the nearest new Kroger? Where's the Myers? I mean, all of those elements are right there in this community. It's building a community and an opportunity for growth in this community. And the increase in area residents will attract new businesses and amenities, and I just spoke to that in the surrounding area. New jobs and greater opportunities to live and work within the Jeffersonville and Clark County area, and a much broader tax base, as I just explained, and a good start to project the projected need for housing as it may be. And that is the end of my presentation, and I'd like, if you have any questions of myself, Mr. Corbett, Matt, or David.
I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
Is this the same company that built homes in the woods of North Haven?
It is.
Okay. Do you have any ideas about, you were talking about planting a lot of trees. Have you thought about making it a special type of situation where you're planting different types of species?
Yeah, Matt, you want to speak to that? We've spoke very significantly on that, actually.
I couldn't hear you back there. What was actually?
Are you thinking about varying the species of trees?
Oh, yes.
To make it an interesting walk and trail?
Yeah, actually, similar to Eastern Parkway, they found out that having a similar kind of tree along route does not benefit that route, varying the types of trees. So right now what they're doing along here and many other areas that have large growth trees is implementing several different species. So you look at oak, you look at poplar, you look at some maple variations, and it would be a similar pattern, similar structure, so that it looks the same, but you have different colors and different species along that whole route. So that would be the idea and the benefit for that. So that way, if a disease comes in and takes out one certain type of species, similar to what they're doing with ash right now, it's not taking out the entire thing. It's only taking out a couple here and there. So yeah, that's the idea.
And is there room in, I guess, some of the area, the east portion, to make like a small arboretum, or is that, would you not have enough room for that?
The east portion. So
I think it's east.
When
You mean down
so
by
you
the
near
two
like the new
lakes?
park
For the
area?
large park, the large main
Part along the Port Road.
So that area, even though we've suggested things, what I think if the parks would be given to the city and the city decides to take those, it would be done similar to Vissing Park, It would be a large community development that would be the community would be brought into large planning meetings so that we could understand the needs for the community. These things were brought up from the 5-year master plan. Large common open spaces for passive recreation. Lakes were some other things that the community wanted in the 5-year master plan. So those are things that are just suggested, and the lakes themselves are needed for the development, and that they're needed for detention, but they're using them as retention. So
there are some large areas in there. This area up here in particular is just begging for some kind of special use.
Yeah.
All of this area just south and maybe west of the lake, and going up to Vissing Park right now would be a great area. This area right in here, and in our entry, there's a nice little area there. These areas are larger than you think. I mean, it's almost a mile between our entrance and Middle Road. So I mean, it's you're looking at something that is scaled down to get it all on one piece of paper. But there are areas, and we'd like nothing more than to have that type of landscaping and trees put in.
Well, you bring up Denver, and I was actually out there twice this year. I have a friend that moved out there, and I was taking pictures of the different developments because they're building everywhere. And so, have you also thought of like including solar panels, or would that make it too expensive on some of the homes? Including that in some of the build, or?
Actually, there's a lot of solar in Stapleton that I saw, and it's something that really hasn't hit this area. Our utility costs are fairly low compared to some areas of the country, and I'd love to see it. I mean, I think we have an open mind to that type of technology, and we'd love to see that in there.
These questions aren't related to my approval. I support the project, but we have an opportunity to think about these kinds of things.
I'm glad you brought it up, and it is not something that came up on our radar, but I think it's a really good idea. We certainly aren't opposed to it.
Okay. So did I hear you correctly when you said that if the city doesn't take the deal of the accepting the parks into the city, that it's still going to look like this, but it'll just be for use by the HOA members?
We think it should be a public place, and as long as we have it, and wouldn't you agree, it would be open to the public? You want to speak to that, Jeff, or David?
Yeah. It's obviously the city's option whether they would want to make this a public park, or if not, we would leave it at the homeowners association. There's 512 lots. We're looking at about $400 a year for dues, which is about a little over $200,000 to maintain it. So it would look similar. Would it go to the extreme of a public park as far as change thing? But no, we would set it up very similar. It might not be as modern as a public Frisbee park. Maybe it's a basket out there where they can throw it at, but not to the commercial aspect as you would see in a public park. But yes, it would be similar.
And that speaks to one of the main questions that I had that I brought up with you was the maintenance of some of the medians and some of those, what you're calling, I think, the lateral parks or the
linear
parks, thank you. And all of that would be covered under the HOA.
The HOA, that is
correct. There's some spots in my district where we have issues with overgrown. We constantly get calls about medians not being monitored, and some of the residents have taken that, so that wouldn't be an issue at all with this resident, which is why I asked the question. So.
That was a big discussion on our part because, the question was, do the homeowners cut the grass all the way out to the street, which is common, but this is a 50-foot strip, and then one homeowner's cuts, one don't, so we figure we just don't leave that where the HOA would take care of it. That way it's cut consistently.
Sounds good to me.
Have you had discussions with Paul Northam or Bill Burns or anyone that would be in charge of taking care of this and get a call, what the cost estimate would be to the city?
Scott, we had meetings with all the department heads, including Mr. Northam on 2 occasions. The Green Team, Bill Burns has helped guide some of those meetings. We met with police and fire. We've met with street department. We've tried to go through all of the details with as many people as we could, including some council members, as you all know, and as well as staff. So we think we've got all the questions answered. To the specifics of how much things cost, and we understand your concerns there and the board's concerns there. That's going to have to be a city decision, and I don't know that we have enough information to even make a recommendation there in terms of what those costs are going to be and how they would be funded, other than the fact that should you choose to not make it public and keep it private, then Mr. Corbett will develop it for the residents only, and it'll be part of the funds from the HOA fees to maintain those things.
David, you all had a public meeting, correct?
We had a community meeting at the Utica School, and we had close to 100 people attend from the public, the neighbors and such. And we went through the same presentation there, got very good responses. I think the best evidence of that is we came to the Plan Commission meeting, and if any of those folks who went to the community meeting were at the Plan Commission meeting, there might have been a few, but they didn't speak. We did have one person speak in favor at the Plan Commission meeting, but by and large, we feel like we've gone over and above and beyond, meeting with various both neighbors as well as city officials to try and get questions answered.
I can attest to that, and I really, really appreciate that. I mean, you and Mr. Corbin have been very forthcoming and been involving us as well as the public and the different department heads, so I really thank you for doing that.
Well,
I made just about everyone. I couldn't make the meeting up there at the administration building, but I applaud you all for doing that.
The best thing that we got in terms of the community meeting was people started asking, which lot can I buy? And so we got a list of people who already want to live here. So that was a great testament to what we're trying to do. I think this is something that, I've done subdivisions for 30 years in Jeffersonville and southern Indiana, and I think this is probably going to be the number one that I've been able to be involved with, just because of all of these unique things that we brought out here, and the open space and parkland and so forth. So,
David,
yes, sir.
How long do you think it'll take before that development is where you have the development up to a stage of where you know what your parkland, your ponds and everything are truly going to be? Because if the city takes over those ponds, from day one, they have a responsibility as far as keeping the grass mowed and keeping them at a certain level of maintenance.
I think we're open, Mr. Ellis, to maintaining the ponds, maintaining those areas which would ultimately, we're offering to the city free of charge, but we're open to maintaining those things for a period of time, the course of the development, which could be 5 to 10 years. It's 512 lots. 50 lots a year would be 10 years. 100 lots a year, I don't know if we can reach that or not, but that would be 5 years. So we figure that, we're going to be in there. Jeff's going to be in there. He's going to be building the houses. He's going to be maintaining all these green spaces. It's to his benefit, for the sale of the homes to do that. And he's going to build the lakes, and he's offering then to donate that for all the city residents, not just the residents there. But ultimately, the city will have to tell us, which way they want to go with that. But as far as maintenance in the short term, we're willing to take care of all of that, and we can enter into a signed agreement. In terms of the lakes, I think somebody mentioned earlier, the lakes are maintained as part of the development because they're for drainage. And so they'll be maintained until the development is finished, and then I believe the city ordinance requires plus 3 years. So
that's my concern, because as a member of the Parks Authority and this council, I'm concerned about what the cost it would be to the city, and especially the Parks Department, when we have a tight budget, and to have to come up with this. And I would be willing to take a look at this at a different date and concur with maybe taking over those parks.
Well, one of the big things we got out of our meetings with the department heads was they looked at their own budgets, And then they asked us, what is your time frame? And I said, well, we hope to break ground this year. We hope to start construction by the end of the year and maybe have Section 1 completed, the roads and infrastructure, by next spring, get some houses started maybe in June, and maybe this time next year we'll have our first house for sale. So, in the first year, there's not going to be a whole lot. And so then if we build 50 houses a year, then we've got the 10 years. And the point I'm trying to make is that the department heads appreciated the fact that they have 10 years to take that in stages to start figuring out those budgetary type items, whether it's trash pickup or parks or whatever it is. And so there is some time here for all of those kind of details to be worked out. And again, Jeff is, his goal is to make it public, to connect Vissing Park to the new park, and would love to have all the residents of the city. We think people will come here, they'll come to Vissing Park and walk through this whole area, they'll come to the new park, and they'll park there and walk through the whole area, or they'll come visit a friend, they'll park on one of the designated parking areas of the boulevard and bike or walk through the whole neighborhood. And we think that is ideal, but we understand you are the fiscal body and you're going to have to make that call as to the costs. So,
if I may, real quick, Mr. Baker. So you guys understand, tonight has nothing to do with any of this discussion about assuming a park, assuming responsibility, spending money on anything. Tonight's just whether or not you're going to change the zone. So, and I understand it's important. However, I'm not so sure moving the ball forward.
That it can be relevant to the decision tonight.
Correct. Right. So I just want to make sure that that's not something.
And
that budget thing, we got some time.
Yeah.
No decision has been made from the administration standpoint whether or not to accept these parks. We're very early in those stages. My recommendation is not only do we have the Parks Authority approval, but I think it'll be wise that before we accept these parks in the city, when and if that ever occurs, that we have approval from the city council. We're way.
And that, as far down the road as that is, I did want to add that you talked about our housing need, but in 2015, the council commissioned a kind of a overview of our parks department, and that came to show, I think Mr. Gullo worked on that also, that we have a need for extra acreage of park space too. I agree, Mr. Wilder, we shouldn't be really factoring that into the decision tonight, but this project really does fit in two of our needs that we've paid for studies to tell us, hey, we need houses, we need parks.
What's the ordinance number for this?
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any more questions before I open up for a public hearing? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this time, I'm going to officially open up to public hearing to see if anybody wishes to speak either for or against the property located at 4075 Herb Lewis Road, going from an R1 to a PUD, which is a PD. Come forward, state your name and address for the record. Oh, wow, okay. I'll officially close the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to pass 2017 OR 65, and it's just one reading, correct?
And I would second.
I'll second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second to pass 2017 OR 65. Any further discussion?
Yes, and just piggybacking on what Ron was talking about, I think it is good, and what Mr. Owen was talking about, that we have the discussion about the parks, but you're probably going to have this discussion with two more councils, so the faces will be different, and we have to have the conversations over and over again, and so that I do appreciate you having it now. I also appreciate that we did the housing study in-house. Parks Department did their study, and I appreciate the fact that you actually looked at that and kind of gave some feedback that it was a good study that analyzed the trends in the area, and Mr. Pruitt did that in-house, and that shows his expertise and his abilities to do things that have not previously been done from the planning department. And we're getting some good things out of him, so it's good that aided you in this huge development. The only other thing I would say is there are some of us, I'm not moving out downtown, but who I'm sure would love to live there but don't need 3 bedrooms. So, if, maybe a 2-bedroom, if you could scatter those throughout, there are probably professionals that would like to live there as well with the trailheads and the things that would like to buy those homes, but wouldn't want to buy something so big. I don't use
There's a new
3/4 of the home I have.
You can have a den. Build big of a den.
There's a new apartment complex right down the street from where this is going to be built.
Is that all you
Well,
had?
sometimes they want to be homeowners as well.
Well, they'll be able to walk to the trails, though.
Is that all you had,
So
Councilman?
if that can be in consideration, I know it's a business decision, I would appreciate that.
Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on, we have Heather, an ordinance transferring certain funds within the same department, which would be ordinance 66, I think I heard our city clerk say.
You're fine.
Nobody wants to stay?
Oh.
This is for the placemaking fund. This is just transferring from service to supplies. I believe they're wanting to purchase some trees.
Motion to approve 17 OR 66.
Second.
On which reading?
Page 15.
First and second, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
We've got a motion to pass, and a second to pass 2017 OR 66 in the first and second reading. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Heather and Chief Hedrick, we have an ordinance which will be 2017 OR 67 of additional appropriation, and our public hearing will be on October 2nd, 2017.
I had sent the council an email in regards to the need for some additional overtime a couple weeks ago, and that's what this is in regards to. Any questions about, I tried to explain in that email why the need existed, but certainly any questions I can answer.
I would comment, Chief, that I looked at your budget, and between your general budget and your Lloyd budget, I think we can find the money not to have to do an additional appropriation, at least this at this time of the year. And then if you need the money for those other projects, potentially at the end of the year, we can appropriate the money then. So
I don't know what line items you're actually referencing, but we could certainly, there's certain expenditures, of course, that'll be spent through the rest of the year. We're in the middle of September, so we could certainly exhaust multiple line items in other series to make that up, I'm sure.
Were you suggesting the possibility of using Lloyd for overtime?
I don't agree
Chief, I
with
know you
that.
sent an email. Could you refresh my memory about the main causes or two for the overtime?
Yeah, it's been injuries. We've had multiple injuries. This happened about 3 or 4 years ago, where we had multiple injuries happen. It's just a cycle, I guess, that is unfortunate, where we have multiple injuries happen at one time. I can't get into the names of the injuries, but we've had a heart surgery, we've had broken feet, broken heels, a couple shoulders, torn bicep. All of those are elongated recovery injuries. And as soon as we actually got a couple people that returned to work last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a couple more that went out. So I thought we were climbing out of a staffing scenario, but we got right back into it with a couple new injuries that occurred last week. But injuries is one of them. The other one that's kind of new, actually a couple years ago, one of our needs was FMLA. But FMLA actually is making up, out of the days that are off, FMLA is taking up about 2%, which is very low compared. Military leave is one of the issues that we're having that we haven't really experienced in the past. We're hiring more and more veterans, which is they get preference on our test through state law, and through the merit system, which is great. I'm a big supporter of that program. Along with that, they're meeting their obligation through the National Guard and Army Reserve, which means a lot of military days off. And we actually got notice today of one of our members that might be on a deployment in Florida with his Army unit. We're waiting to hear that. No action to be taken. We're waiting to hear, but we did get notice of that today. So military leave and injuries is the primary. Bereavement leave is about where it usually is. FMLA is lower than it usually is. And the sick and workplace injuries, which I've grouped together in injuries, and the military leave is what's really led to that.
Which year was it? 13 or 14, where we had like 12 babies out of the fire department and FMLA was through the roof?
I think it was, no, I think the year Matt's referencing is,
was it 15?
it was 13. I think I just got here, Ed, you might remember, it was 8 or 9, well, at least I know you remember, nearly $900,000 a year that we had in overtime, but that was a lot of injuries as well. We're not in that range.
Hopefully no one's on the second child wave, right? It's going to hit at the same time.
Yeah.
And a lot of the, like you said, the OT is just for that stuff that just happens. And when you have military, we get that expertise and that training, but we also get that deployment that comes often.
We've actually cut back on our some of our overtime expenditures down in the park and at the concerts. I don't know if you guys attend those, but we've just identified some of the busier concerts that we've went down to, and the other ones we've been manning with our on-duty crew. We have them go down there and man it. So we haven't spent a lot there. We did on Abbey Road, but other than that, and Thunder, of course, not a lot of special events. We haven't staffed a lot of those. We've done with our on-duty staff.
Yeah, you actually started that last year. You implemented that, and it worked out really well.
This is a scenario where we had, I think we had 7 or 8 people off at one time injured. As you guys know, I don't need to get into it, with a minimum staffing situation, if that crew is just everyday overtime to fill the minimum staffing.
Any further question from council? Chief Hedrick, we appreciate it.
So Heather, so this will come out of the $360,000 that's not appropriated from the general fund, correct?
Oh, I don't know about that.
So
Yes.
there's no further question. I will entertain a motion.
Number 67.
Motion to approve in the first and second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pass 2017 OR 67 on the first and second reading. Is there any further questions or discussion?
I would only say that Mr. Samuel brought up the idea that maybe there's some line items that are available. I'd love for him to speak with Chief Hedrick, try to figure that out, because I'd rather come out of there if possible. I guess if there's a possibility for that, that'd be great.
I think that'd be a good, something to review next week or at our next meeting before we hear a third reading.
No, I would be happy to do that with any of the council members, to sit down and look at line item of Lloyd expenditures or 300 series. 200 series is almost gone, so it wouldn't come out of there, but 300 series, I believe, is probably what Nathan's referencing, and Lloyd.
I'd just say up front that I wouldn't be supportive of spending Lloyd money on overtime.
Yeah, I've been real cautious of operating out of Lloyd too, so. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
motion carries.
And that was on the first and second?
Yeah.
Yes. Do we have a city council attorney report tonight?
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay. Do we have any department heads? I see Paul or Nathan. Any department head report tonight? Okay, thank you.
One quick.
Okay. I will recognize Mr. Murphy.
I'm a man of my word, so regarding vehicle leases, the mayor's lease to his vehicle is up for renewal. We're going to renew the lease. It's the same lease payment that's in the budget, so not an increase.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there is no public.
Next meeting. We're going to have a copy of that.
Maserati didn't have that printed.
There is no public comment, so I will move on to council comments, and I will start with Councilperson White.
No comment.
Councilperson Zastani.
I just want to apologize that I wasn't here for the budget discussions. I was at a customer's annual event, and it ran over, and I couldn't make it. So I apologize for that, and I apologize for my informal attire as well, so that's all.
Councilperson Yan.
I'm assuming you'll address the executive session?
Yes, I will.
Okay, that's all I have.
Councilperson Maples.
Nothing.
Councilperson Hawkins.
Nothing.
Councilperson Owen.
No, I'm good.
Councilperson Ellis.
Yeah, we continue to have ordinances of additional appropriations. I wasn't here when the budget was set last year, so I have a hard time voting against some of the ordinances of additional appropriation, but I would like to put the council and department heads on notice that in next year's budget, I will not be voting for ordinances of additional appropriations unless they can prove that an emergency exists. That's all I have.
Councilperson Samuel.
Yeah, I'll just comment about my no vote on just what we just talked about. The overtime that the chief has talked about, he explained that that was because of very unusual circumstances, because of people breaking their, what you heard, in the feet and ankles and all this other stuff. And we have close to $500,000 budgeted for overtime. And in this case, this is an unusual situation to go over. And I've been very against operationalizing Edit or Lloyd. I don't like that. But in my opinion, his own words saying this is highly unusual, we don't expect this to happen. They have right at $100,000 still left in Lloyd for expenses such as equipment, training, improvements, safety equipment. They got a couple of equipment line items with like $30,000 a piece in them. And I think there's quite a bit of money still left in that budget as well as in the other budget. And my position on that is, rather than just saying keep your budget as it is and spend all this before the end of the year, let's use this money first and then let him come back in a month or two and say we need this type of equipment. And if he can justify it, then my opinion would be we provide it for him. But I like letting them manage their budget, not have to just come back and just ask for more when they still have money in their budget. That's the only reason I took the position I did tonight, and I'll talk to the chief and his assistants about what I see and try to make some questions with them about that. That's all I have.
Okay. I did want to quickly thank Ed for providing the food at the last, and for Nathan for you all doing all that for us. We appreciate that, and we need to schedule an executive session. Should we pull out the calendars now? Of course, I think we would like to see the city engineer there as well.
Yes, so in light of the fact that there's an ongoing litigation involves the city, an issue of the watershed, and that was something that was going to be addressed tonight. In the open meeting, I asked Mr. Merkley if he'll provide me with the legal issues and information, probably the appropriate time to do this in the session. The question you got to ask yourself is, if you want to, I guess I'll ask Mr. Merkley, are we at such a time frame that we need to do this before the next regularly scheduled meeting? You just want to do that on the 25th?
Why are we having an executive? We're not parties to the suit, right?
Did you read the?
We vote to spend the money, and they've not named us.
Right.
So I would think that as some.
We're not.
But we were being updated on the issue.
Yeah.
We want to update you on the Waverly Road drainage issues, that watershed. And I don't want that discussed in a public meeting. We've got at least 2 lawsuits pending against us as a result of the drainage. So those in council.
We're not named, we spend the money, he doesn't want to share that information.
The council specifically is not named, but the city is it?
I'm sure you were asked in a public meeting with me. Right.
Could we do before our October meeting?
Yes.
How long is it going to take you, 30 minutes?
So if we schedule it at 6 o'clock before our next council meeting, would that be fine?
Which is on the 2nd?
October 2nd at 6 o'clock, we will schedule executive session.
The conference room across the street.
It'll be in our city council conference room.
Across the
And you will check to see if Mr. Crouch is available for that. Okay. All right. That's all I had. I will see you all Wednesday at 7 o'clock, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Meeting adjourned.